Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria of Through the Peacock's Eyes, and this is the Saturn in Capricorn transit video for Western astrology sun signs. And I do recommend listening to your sun sign. So with general horoscope readings like this, it's most accurate to listen to your sun sign. When it comes to your rising or ascendant sign, and rising and ascendant are the same thing, sometimes listening to a general astrology reading like this, it will be completely off. And that is because sometimes your ascendant sign and the dominant sign of your first house can be two different signs. And so with general readings, they have to be done whole house or whole sign. And if, let's say, your ascendant is at 28 degrees of Aquarius, yet your first house encompasses all of Pisces, if you listen to Aquarius, it's going to be a house off, where listening to Pisces might be more accurate. Now that's with general astrological horoscopes. So if you know that your ascendant is in the early degrees of a sign, then it's going to resonate better listening to general readings. If your ascendant is at a late degree of a sign, it might just be off quite often. Okay, so that's just my little spiel there. I have thought about making an extensive video discussing what to listen to for general readings, or what best to listen to. It would take a lot of editing and a lot of time, which I don't have right now, but if I have time for it someday, I will get to that. Okay, on to our Saturn in Capricorn transit. So the dates. Saturn moves into Capricorn on December 20th or 21st, 2017. So basically on the solstice this year, on the astronomical new year. And his entire transit through Capricorn this time around ends on December 17th, December 17th or 18th, 2020. So it's a 3-year total transit, and I will reference it as that. However, Saturn first moves into the next sign, Aquarius, on March 22nd or 23rd, 2020, but he retrogrades back into Capricorn on July 2nd or 3rd, 2020, and then his final exit in Capricorn is December 17th, 18th, 2020. So again, Saturn moves into Capricorn December 20th, 21st, 2017, and leaves finally December 17th, 18th, 2020. And the only chunk of time where he is in Aquarius before he officially moves into Aquarius is from March 22nd, 23rd, 2020 through July 2nd or 3rd, 2020. So just a short period there. Okay, but for the most part, I'm going to reference this as a transit of 3 years through the sign of Capricorn. Okay. Now on to how this transit affects each of the signs. So I'm going to start with you, Capricorn, because it's almost the Capricorn season on the solstice, and Saturn, your ruler, is moving into your first house. So I'm going to reference this, your first solar house, unless your ascendant and first house is mostly Capricorn. Okay, so Capricorn, your ruler is at home in your sign of Capricorn. So this next 3 years is a very I want to say strong year. So what I see in my mind's eye is the Emperor card of the Tarot, which is not traditionally related to Saturn or Capricorn, but I'm feeling that energy of you feeling more and more empowered over the next 3 years. Now, it's not going to happen, like that on the winter solstice this year, unless you've been in this process already. But over the next 3 years, you're going to feel more and more empowered and being in charge of your life. Now, as you probably are well aware of, Saturn is very disciplined and hardworking. So Capricorn, you're usually very disciplined, very hardworking. You like things that are going to last long term. You're not interested in whims and short-term things. You want stability. You want structure in your life. And this being in your first house applies to you, your identity, who you are. So first house energy is the house of the self. Who are you? So things that you wanted to change about yourself, and this applies to your physical body as well as your mind. So first house is often referenced as the ego, because that's the individual body mind that our souls inhabit in this lifetime. What changes have you want to make? Now's the time to be it, to live it more fully, to develop that foundation, that structure of your identity that you now want to build upon for the rest of your life, basically. So overall, the next 3 years, Capricorn, you're going to be feeling really good. As you know, your sign of Capricorn is, it's an earth sign. You're an earth sign. It has a lot to do with financial stability. Many Capricorns are usually have really good careers, really good income potential, and that will be improved and affected, stabilized by this energy, because you are embodying yourself more. You're more in your power. You're feeling more yourself than maybe you have your entire life, or not since the last 29, 30 years ago, last time Saturn was in your sign. So it's about you really coming into your being and feeling like you, and making any changes that you want, long-term changes to yourself. And sometimes, because first house is your physical form, how you dress, how you present yourself out into the world can change as well. But it's going to be more you. All right, that's Capricorn. Now on to Aquarius. Aquarius, Saturn, before Uranus was discovered, was the ruler of Aquarius. So Saturn is a co-ruler of your sign. So, and right now he's transiting through Capricorn, the sign that he rules fully. So Saturn is very strong for you as well. He's transiting through your 12th house. 12th house is the house of the unconscious, the psyche, the dream world, meditation, yoga, visualizations, imagination, mental, emotional, psychological health, the psyche, if I didn't say that already, your shadow self. It's an intangible house. It's one of the houses I call intangible, although it can represent structures as well. But for the most part, it's very intangible. With Saturn going through Capricorn, your 12th house, that's bringing stability and structure actually to a very intangible aspect of yourself. So any Aquariuses who have been challenged by any, mental illness or emotional struggles, psychological issues, major, minor, doesn't matter. This is an excellent time to commit to, be disciplined into some sort of healing, whether it's alternative. Sometimes I put in healing energy into the 12th house, healing through yoga and meditation, or psychotherapy if that's necessary, or even, any sort of medical intervention if necessary. So look into those things if you've needed them. Doesn't mean do it, doesn't mean not. Of course, I'm not a doctor, I'm not diagnosing, but if you feel this is the time for that, move on to that, go look into it. But it's also a strong house of spiritual growth, spiritual seeking. It can be about spiritual retreats, going off somewhere to foreign lands for your personal, spiritual, emotional, even psychological growth. So many Aquariuses may be drawn to that as well. And, naturally, Aquarius, you are the humanitarian, so that may involve humanitarian work. So 12th house also covers foreign lands. So any deep personal growth, psychological growth, spiritual growth, seeking that you want to do in foreign lands over the next 3 years is supported by this Saturn transit. Okay, anything else I want to say there that's popping up? Oh. Some of you may be drawn to being very disciplined, whether you have done this in the past or not, to a meditation practice, to a yoga practice, to some sort of spiritual practice. Keep in mind that 12th house energy is also the house of illusion. And to catch yourself, if you can, and Saturn is helpful here, if you are being pulled towards illusion in your spiritual seeking in some way. So that could be like, the spiritual guru who's really not, or going towards drugs for spiritual realization. Those are all illusory paths. The true path is to see beyond that, to go within without the aid of anything external. So don't let the mind get illusioned, especially by drugs. Because with drugs, you're using the mind to try to see beyond it. You can't use what you're trying to see beyond it. That's the illusion. So keep that in mind. Okay, that is for Aquarius. On to Pisces. So Pisces, Saturn will be moving through Capricorn, your 11th house. The 11th house is the house of friends, acquaintances, networking, who you know and who knows who you know, and so on. You know, that like 6 degrees of separation. It's also a house of gains from your career, your dreams, and your ambitions. So Saturn's transit here is going to help you clarify, which I feel is the right word, clarify the groundwork, the foundation of what your dreams and ambitions are. If you're on that path and you know what they are, this is going to help you build upon the foundations you may already have. But you're going to get solid support, and this may be from your friends, from your network, from your acquaintances, or from within yourself, to go for, to achieve those dreams and ambitions you have, especially if it's related to career. They could be social dreams, social ambitions as well, and any gains you get from your career, because Saturn is in this house of gains from career. Don't spend it willy-nilly. Saturn likes stability, longevity, and when it comes to money, so gains from your career, invest wisely, save it. Doesn't mean you can't spend any of it, but this is a time to collect your gains, to invest in something for the long term. Okay, that's for you, Pisces. Aries. So Aries, Saturn is moving through your 10th house of career, which is really good. So you have Capricorn as your 10th house, which is a great sign. Capricorn is the natural 10th house sign. You could say natural 10th house rulership. With Saturn here, Saturn ruling Capricorn, your career should become, if not already, and if it already is, become more solid, more stable. This also means you will become more disciplined, more hardworking, more diligent in whatever your career is. Wanting to work hard, work long hours, do what it takes to build your career's foundation in such a solid way that you don't have to worry about it beyond this transit. So the focus is all on your career. Building your career, building upon your career, anything that is solid, anything that is long-term. So it doesn't mean you have to commit to where you're working for the rest of your life. But whatever you work on in your career over the next 3 years, it should be something that is giving a foundation for what you love to do for the rest of your life in some way. Okay, but it's really good for career. Excellent for you, Aries. Okay, Taurus. Saturn will be moving through your 9th house. So 9th house is a house of religion, philosophy, spirituality, higher education, which can mean university type education or just any sort of self-education, especially spiritual education you do on your own or beyond, high school level. Okay. It's also a house of politics, governments, things like that. But that rarely plays strongly in a general reading for me. Mostly it's a very religious and spiritual and philosophical house. Okay, so Saturn is moving through your 9th house, Taurus, and he brings in the discipline. Yeah, I was going to say the discipline to study, but study either a religious path, either one you're already on, or maybe you decide, I want to look into Buddhism, or I want to look into Catholicism. It could be wanting to study religions in general to understand what is the common message behind them. Could be to study spirituality. 9th house is also a house of foreign travel. So many Tauruses may want to travel somewhere for a long period of time. So Saturn likes anything long-term. Long-term, longevity. It's nothing flighty. Okay, so you may want to go to a foreign country for a while. So move there for maybe most of the Saturn transit. or an interest in studying something, committing to studying something long term, whether it's like through a college or university or through workshops or by yourself. But there's this sort of nose to the grindstone in studying religious, spiritual, or other things. Okay. I'm just trying to feel if I'm feeling much of the politics and government energy here. Not on a personal level, unless you're interested in studying politics and government. Yeah, I'm not really feeling any of that energy, at least not much. Okay. Anything else I'm feeling here? Oh, so I'm feeling kind of the old man hermit type energy I get with Saturn as well. So some of you Tauruses might want to do this on your own, by yourself. You may even, go to that travel on your own, by yourself, as part of your studies in religion or spirituality, or even just philosophy of life. Okay. And I will say that for some, traveling through the computer, because through our computers, through the internet, we can go anywhere in the world. That may be the path for some. Okay. All right, on to Gemini. So Gemini, Saturn is transiting through your 8th house of Capricorn. 8th house is another one of those very intangible houses. It's a dark house. It represents death, change, and transformation. And transformation is that deep spiritual process of going to the underworld and coming back out. And I'll point out here that Pluto is also in Capricorn. He's been there for a while. He's there for many more years. Pluto has, he's the outer planet, so he's in signs for a very long time. And with Saturn here in your 8th house, many Geminis may very likely be doing that journey into the underworld, that journey into the cocoon, to disassemble, to take the pieces of you apart, take the pieces of your psyche apart, take the pieces of your shadow self apart, your archetypes, take the pieces of who you've been in this physical world apart, to tuck away. So many Geminis may feel like you need to withdraw within yourself, whether that's just wanting to spend time alone, or for some it may be feeling down here and there. Turn within that to understand it. Don't let it take over you, but embrace it and understand what's this deep inner process that's going on. What about myself do I need to dig deeper into, to research into? Now, 8th house also encompasses the occult, metaphysics, things like, astrology, tarot. You may be drawn to, or more drawn to if you already are interested in it, looking into metaphysical modalities to help you understand this transformation that's going on deep within, to help you through those times when you're feeling down in the dark cocoon. And after this phase, you will emerge as the butterfly. But this is the time to go within and disassemble in the cocoon. Understand all those parts of you. And I want to say especially archetypes. That feels very strong. What archetypes have you been living, and what archetypes have been shadow aspects that have been living you, that you can now become aware of and integrate, so you become more whole. And when you're more whole, that's when you emerge as the butterfly. All right, Gemini. Cancer. So Cancer, Saturn is moving through your 7th house of relationships in Capricorn. So Capricorn's your opposite sign. So this is a very strong transit for you, strong for everyone, but with Saturn looking right at you, aspecting your sun, you will feel this very strongly. So Capricorn in the 7th house of relationships is very positive for establishing, strengthening, or finding that long-term committed relationship. Saturn likes things that last a long time. Saturn wants longevity, wants stability, wants those solid foundations to build upon for the long term. So if you're in a relationship and it's going well, this Saturn transit will take that relationship kind of to a whole new level, to a deeper level, where you may find that you build new foundations with your partner. If you're in a relationship that has a weak foundation, So what I'm seeing in my mind's eye is the Tower card of the Tarot. The Tower is built on weak foundations, or, you know, unstable foundations, and it crumbles down. Saturn's transit through the 7th house will crumble down unstable relationships in your life. And the 7th house very strongly represents like your partner, your spouse, husband, wife, partner, your committed relationship. It can have to do with best friends, you know, business partners, anyone you're in close relationship with. So any unstable relationships will crumble down through the Saturn transit, because Saturn wants you to have those solid, long-term, stable relationships. If you're looking for that, whether it's a business partner or you know, a spouse, someone to live with for the rest of your life, a best friend, Saturn will help bring that person in for you. Another thing Saturn does is distance. So he may not necessarily tear down, so he may tear down unstable relationships, but he may distance you from other relationships that aren't necessarily unstable. So sometimes this plays out when I do personal readings. Saturn can, and we say it as if the planets are doing things, but it's just the energies that are around. During the time of the Saturn transit, you know, your close friends may move away. Your best friend may get married and you don't have to spend much time together. So he can just distance you from close relations, which isn't necessarily a negative thing, except for the fact that you're not with that person as much as before. Okay, but that does actually create space for other solid relationships to come in. Okay, on to Leo. So Leo, Saturn will be transiting through Capricorn, your 6th house. So the 6th house is a house of health, hygiene, your daily routine. It's a house of service as well. I feel like this is going to affect you most in the health, very physical feeling, in the health area of your life. So Saturn will bring in stability to any health issues you may have had. Saturn is about structure, and then physically Saturn rules the bones, the connective tissue, and joints. So this can play out in 2 ways. The Saturn energy can help solidify and strengthen those. And especially if anything comes up with bones and joints and connective tissue, address them. So it may bring up issues with those areas of your body. And I want to say it can include teeth, although Venus rules this area, but teeth are bones as well. Address things that come up. Because if they come up during this period, it's because the Saturn energy is saying you need to take care of this so you can have teeth for the long term. So that joint can work for you for the long term. So don't ignore anything or don't put off anything with those areas of your body. But I do feel more strongly that the Saturn transit will bring in help to strengthen those areas, which doesn't mean they've been weak. But you may just find yourself, you know, suddenly stretching more often to help keep your joints loose or your connective tissue loose. And if it's something you've been thinking about, you know, you've been thinking, oh, I need to stretch my back more. It's been stiff, especially because Leo rules the back, and Saturn would be the spine and the connective tissue and all the joints of the spine. You just may naturally feel drawn to take care of one of these areas of your body, and pat yourself on the back for doing that. Don't ignore it. Just be like, okay, I think I need to do more mobility for my joints, or I need to just exercise for my joints and my overall health. And you know, weight-bearing exercise strengthens bones. So listen to all of that over the next 3 years and then beyond. Saturn here will also help you to develop and lay the foundations for solid routines in your everyday life, health routines and other routines. So if you've been struggling with finding a routine, or 6th house also rules work, not necessarily career, but work, the stuff you do, which can be your career, he will help bring in the energy to be more structured, be more disciplined in whatever routines you need to set up in your life. Okay. And I will say, Leo, this transit is really good if you've been wanting to train for something. Saturn will bring you the discipline to accomplish that. Okay, moving on to Virgo. So Virgo, Saturn will be moving through your 5th house of creativity. It's also a house of children and romance. I really want to say the creativity, whether that involves creating children, is the strongest. So the house of doing what you love. What do you wish to create with your life? What do you love to do? I feel like Saturn's transit here will make you start to question some of those things. So I'm getting a lot of questioning energy here. What is it you love to do? What do you want to create with your life? Do you want to create children? Do you want to create romance? Do you want to create this project? Do you want to create art? Do you want to create your own job or your own career? Question those things. And once you know those answers or discover those answers through the questioning, Saturn's energy here will help you to get to work on creating what you want to create in your life. But question. Okay. Libra, Saturn will be moving through your 4th house. So 4th house of home, family, property. It is also a house of past lives and ancestors. I'm feeling mostly the property, the home energy here. Like where you live. So whether you own a house, you rent an apartment, you rent a house, you rent a room, you own some land, or you're thinking of buying like a car, vehicles is included here. Saturn energies here will help quite a bit. He will help bring in the stability to find that decent apartment or to buy that home or fix up your home. So Saturn rules structure. So those of you who own your homes, whether you buy an apartment or you own a house, or even like your vehicles, cars, boats, or even property, your land, Saturn's energy, this is a good time to remodel, to restructure, to build that garden, to fix your car door, to work on any of the structural things, landscaping, fixing those windows, the walls, the foundation of your home especially, repair that roof that's been leaking. This is the time to do it during this transit. And sometimes, you know, some people find that those things just pop up and need to be done during a Saturn transit. So I am feeling it very physical for you, Libra. Family-wise, the energy doesn't feel super strong. Doesn't mean it's not affecting it, but just for this general reading. But Saturn transit here should bring good stability to your core family. That's what it feels like. Not so much extended family, but the core family. If you have, you know, a family or want a family, actually. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. Okay, on to Scorpio. So Scorpio, Saturn will be moving through your 3rd house. Scorpio, Saturn is moving through your 3rd house. 3rd house is about communication, short distance travel, your community, neighbors. The communication aspect always feels strongest with these general readings. And that also includes, you know, emails, phone calls, talking to people one-on-one, writing, any sort of writing, not just communication writings, but writing books, journaling. A lot of that writing feels very strong. So any Scorpios out there who've been thinking of writing something or just haven't had the discipline to write that book you wanted to write or to start up that blog, Saturn will give you the energy to get going on that and to be disciplined about it and structured. Like, I'm going to write a blog post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's going to be like that. Or I'm going to work on my book for 30 minutes every single morning. Saturn's going to really help with that. When it comes to communications in general, Saturn can have a distancing energy. So you may find that there are less communications. And I'm not feeling, I mean, this is a general reading, but I'm not feeling that it's like because of anything bad or disagreement. It's just sort of like communications are less. But I think it's freeing up time for you, especially for those Scorpios who want to write something. And even if the writing is just, I want to start a journal for myself and write in it for 5 minutes every night, Saturn will bring in that discipline. And I want to talk about social media here, although sometimes that can be put into 11th house energy. I'm feeling it here, that this is a good time for any Scorpios who feel like you've been wasting time on social media, or you use it to procrastinate, or it's just been bugging you. this Saturn energy can be really helpful in breaking away from that and doing things that are more important, things that are more, that bring more, I want to say satisfaction. Forms of communication that are more satisfying. So in-person communications, picking up the phone and calling someone, really making those more deeper connected communication connections. And that might be why I'm feeling that sort of that distancing with other communications, like the flighty communications, the meaningless chit chat. It's like less of that and more of the meaningful stuff. And more time for you to write, more discipline for you to write, whether it's journaling, you want to write a book, or you've been thinking of starting a blog, whatever it may be, you'll have the discipline for it. Okay, and finally, Sagittarius, Saturn will be moving through your second house. Second house is a house of gains, money, possessions. I call it the house of stuff. It can be gains from your career, but it's usually money and stuff you acquire not from your work, but sometimes those overlap. It's also a house of self-worth. So when we talk about money and possession, Saturn's transit here is great because Saturn is stability to money. With Saturn transiting through the second, it's always very good, very wise to take advantage of this transit. And if you do any sort of investments, you want to put your money away somewhere, to put it into long-term investments. Now that can be investing in buying things if you're going to get the return in the long term. So no short-term investments. That's not very good with Saturn energy. If you purchase things, so if you gain more possessions during this time, make sure it's things you want long term. So let's say you buy a refrigerator and you're like, oh, well, it's cheap right now and I'll just replace it in a year or in 6 months if it breaks down. Let's say you're buying a used one. That's not a good idea during this transit. Invest in things that will last long term. Okay, it may not be a refrigerator. That's just my example. But whatever you want long term, money investments that have long term gains, but nothing short and quick. So I would say don't go out and just buy something on a whim, and especially if you know you're going to go home and be like, why did I buy this? So that can apply to any possessions, stuff around your house, your clothing, anything you own. Make sure it's meaningful, basically. Are you going to use it for the long term? Are you going to want it long term? Is it worth investing in for the long term? Okay, when it comes to self-worth, because I feel there's an element there, Saturn moving through your second house. I'm feeling the transformative energy of Saturn here. For those of Sagittarius who have been challenged with your sense of self-worth, and that may have happened because Saturn is coming out of your sign and has challenged your sense of self. This transit is going to help you to, I want to say, piece together your understanding of who you are and appreciate and value yourself better. So it's going to help you understand that you are deserving. You are deserving. And as you feel that more and more, and this won't apply to every Sagittarius, just those who've been challenged with a sense of self and self-worth. As you feel that sense of I deserve to be loved. I deserve to live the life I want. The foundation of that sense of self-worth gets stronger and stronger. Okay, I could probably talk an hour on that if that was a personal reading, but I will leave that there. I hope this gave you guys an insight, just a little insight into how Saturn will affect you in the next 3 years. Of course, it's just the Saturn transit. It's not looking at it, in aspect and angles to other transits or in how it relates to your personal chart. If you'd like a personal astrology reading, I do both Western and Vedic astrology or a tarot reading. You can go to my website, peacockseyes.com, and click the Empress card on the right-hand side or click the link below. Have a wonderful solstice, everyone. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and I will see you soon.